up. It's not as bad as being the Jets account. Frank Isola, mute. And college's Final Four. Let's go around the horn.
That's what's happening.
Come on. Frank gets it more because he's the Jets account.
Frank deserves more.
A win is a win.
Number one tiebreaker is strength of schedule. When you think of it that way, you always think who's had a harder schedule. Here's how it goes down here. Who's had the easier schedule and finished worse, and that's Jacksonville. So the Week 15 first win for Adam Gase puts Trevor Lawrence in teal for the moment. Incomprehensible how this could happen. Reprehensible to Jets and Rams fans alike. Frank Isola, around the horn to you. Did the Jets just supergalactically shoot themselves in the foot, leg, arm, every other body part by winning?
Minus 16.
Tony, you're a New Yorker. You know the saying, same old Jets. This falls right into that category.
Same old Isola.
Everything that they can do wrong, bet on it. But here's the thing. Pretty good. Now, you can't tank in football. That's the issue. Adam Gase does not want to be 0-16 on his resume. Neither does Sam Darnold. Frank Gore. These are people that have, reputations. They have pride. They have some dignity. They don't want to lose games just so the Jets can get Trevor Lawrence. But I will say this. When you watch the way that Trevor Lawrence played on Saturday and you're thinking, man, there's a franchise quarterback. Well, guess what? Looks like they're not going to get him.
So at the cost of losing out on what you just called was who you just called was a franchise quarterback, this Week 15 game, I mean, you have to do something about that if you're the franchise. No? Okay. All right.
No, and remember, it seemed like they did something against the Raiders. They should have won that game. The all-out blitz. Greg Williams ended up losing his job. You cannot tell the players in that locker room, they're not thinking about Trevor Lawrence. They're thinking about themselves, their own careers. It's so short in the NFL, you got to play to win every
Israel
game.
Gutierrez?
Yeah, so depending on what you think of Justin Fields, because, of course, there can be two franchise quarterbacks in any particular draft, but most people don't put him up there with Trevor Lawrence. And this Trevor Lawrence is one of those few. He is of the Peyton Manning ilk, is he not? Right? He's the type of guy that says, I can pretty much guarantee if I draft this player, I will at least play in a few Super Bowls, probably win one. Peyton Manning did it. All the sure things have done it. So as a Jets fan, as the organization, you're looking at this as like, wow, it's quite possible. I lost a couple of Super Bowls in this game. With this one win, and so fans can be sad. The franchise can be somewhat upset, although you can't really say to your players, hey, what are you doing here? Or say to your coaches, what are you doing here? It's just the classic position of being and whatever in the NFL and having that quarterback sitting there draftable. It's terrible for the Jets.
Tim Kalishaw, do you believe the Jets will view this as the worst win in franchise history?
I do. I hope this doesn't cost Larry David's friends their lives on Curb Your Enthusiasm. The Jets have a history with that already, with some of the things they do. I'll just remind you of one thing. On the last day of the 1988 season, Green Bay had the number one pick as long as they didn't do something stupid like win. And they won, and Dallas lost. Dallas got Aikman. Green Bay got Tony Mandrich. These things do matter. They do have an effect over years. And once you're this close, I can't fault the players for going out and playing. That's their job. But this is a horrific win.
I mean, the difference between Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, we've seen, Drew Bledsoe and Rick Meyer. We've seen this before. Bill Plaschke. I had enough on the Rams. Enough on the Jets. I want to talk about the Rams because this is on your account here. McVay's decision, by the way, not to try the game-tying field goal from 55 and going with the 50-50 ball, that's one thing. The other is how your team is so spasmodically up and down, unlike your score, which is just down. Go ahead, Bill Plaschke.
I think McVay's worst decision was not to prepare his team for the game. I got no words for this. They were not ready to play.
You're muting yourself. All right, there you go.
They fell in the trap. They were. If he's going to be the smartest guy in the room, he can't be the guy who doesn't pay attention to his team's morale and what's going on with them. They were not inspired. There was no effort there. 97 yards in the first half, the worst offensive per play in half of McVay's tenure. Two terrible penalties at the end there. The block punt. The refusal to try to run the ball. McVay got out of his game plan. Goff wasn't inspired or good enough. I don't understand how you think you're going to compete for a championship and have a game like this. This looks like a one-and-done playoff team.
Which is different than what you said last week when you thought they were going to. This is an amazing team that is so up and down. Frank, I know you believe Jared Goff is a stud quarterback, and this team was also Super Bowl worthy. After seeing them yesterday, what do you think?
Well, I don't think he's a stud quarterback. I think he's good enough to win with. To me, it's still about that defense, and I still think that defense is good enough to get to the Super Bowl, perhaps win it. The problem is the Chiefs are probably going to get there. Nobody's going to beat them. But that defense is a chance.
So after what you just saw, losing to the Jets, yeah, this is fine. This is just a one-off. Kalisha, do you believe this is a one-off for L.A.?
Well, no. And in fairness, 2 weeks ago, I said the Rams are done with their high ceiling, low floor days.
Yeah, in fairness.
They found something with Cam Akers. And now they've just forgotten about Cam Akers, and now they're back to just not knowing.
Israel, is this a one-off for L.A., or is this definitely a sign that this is not their year?
Can it be a one-off when they've done it multiple times this year alone? No, they are very inconsistent. And offensively, anyway, yes, that defense can win you a championship, but it's not good enough to carry an inconsistent offense through the entire NFC and win a championship. So they're just lacking whether it be the one great player on offense, somebody that you can just rely on every single play. That's not really there. It's got to be a combination of scheme and Goff playing well, and sometimes those don't happen.
You know how there's that stat that the Rams and McVay is undefeated while leading at the half and going on to win that game, and every Rams fan tells you that every single day. Well, now he's winless against teams that are 0-13 on the season. We'll move on. Let's get to Selection Sunday and the same Final Four we went in with, which is the only Final Four the committee was ever going to give us. You heard rigged, biased jokes going in. You hear it going out. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame, who got in after the 24-point loss. Whether that loss was worse than Texas A&M's loss months ago, and that's what decided that. That's one thing. And in the case of Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina and San Jose State, well, what can you say? Tim Kalishaw, start with you. Do you find yourself feeling these are the correct four, or do you find yourself feeling this is an unfulfilling process, and that's Pat Forty right there. You know, a blown opportunity here on a year to try something different.
Yes, I find it to be both. I find these are the correct four, and it's a terrible process, and nobody really wants to watch. I don't want to say nobody wants to watch these games, but the familiarity of these teams doesn't really enhance the sport. It feels like the same things over and over. I don't buy the A&M deserved it over Notre Dame. Notre Dame's bad game happened to come in a championship game against Clemson. A&M lost to Alabama by 28. Notre Dame has better wins than the Aggies. The Aggies' best teams they beat are Florida and Auburn. Auburn fired their coach. So I don't see another team. Oklahoma certainly doesn't deserve it. They got 2 losses. I don't see anybody else to throw in there. It's just sad. It's just unfortunate that Notre Dame got drilled and they still make it, and they're going to get beat up again.
But no mention of the undefeated Cincinnati, Coastal Carolina, Israel Gutierrez. Did you find yourself thinking, if there was ever going to be a year to see something different, it was this year?
I found myself flipping on that in particular, that thought, because I said to myself, why is it this year? What, because we need some feel good in a year of feel bad? Well, you know what we also need is some consistency. We need some dollars. We need some eyes on the televisions. And, you know, Alabama, Coastal Carolina isn't going to do it when you know it's going to be a big blowout. Heck, Alabama, Notre Dame might be a blowout, but at least you got the 2 big names that's going to put eyes on the screen there. So I definitely, at the end of this, looked at it like the best case that you had against somebody in that Final Four is Ohio State, because they have half a resume. But everybody else, you can make the arguments all you want. This year, for me, put the teams that are going to make people watch those games if they're still interested.
Frank Isola, did you find yourself satisfied or unfulfilled?
That's exactly what it is. It's a made-for-television college football playoff. That's what it is. Nobody wants to see Texas A&M, Alabama. They've already played. People would rather see Alabama and Notre Dame. That's why they got in. But Jimbo Fisher brings up a great point. He says, we won 7 straight games against SEC competition, and Ohio State didn't even play 7 games. And he says, listen, there's no respect for the SEC. That's not true. 2 SEC teams usually get in. I think the problem is Texas A&M. If their name is Texas, they're probably in the game. If their name is USC, they're probably in the game. I think that has a lot to do with it, the brand appeal of some of these teams. Look at the 4 teams.
Well, if you're going to cite coaches, I think you have to start with Dabo Swinney, because I think he had Ohio State at number 11.
Great.
Bill Plaschke.
Bulletin board material.
The Final Four that they went in with is the one they go out with. How did it make you feel?
Well, Frank, first off, if they were USC, no, they're not getting in the playoffs.
There's another loss for you this weekend. Oh, man.
Yeah, that was a huge blow for me this weekend. I can't believe I'm the only one saying this is the year, besides Pat Forty, this is the year for the outlier. This is the year for the gutty little team. This is the year for the Cincinnati 9-0, beat 3 top 25 teams, had a game-winning drive to win its conference championship in the rain. Notre Dame, 24-point loss, the biggest loss by a team that enters the playoffs. In the history of the playoffs. There's no reason. And again, A&M had the bad loss to Alabama. So everybody says nobody's going to watch it. I think Cincinnati's going to stay in the game with Alabama as long as anybody would. I mean, they're going to beat the heck out of
There's a point to be made about that, Plaschke. Israel, you said we don't want a blowout in the first game of the playoff. There has been a blowout in the first game of the playoff basically since the history of the playoff. With the bowls, all right? Would they honor these teams that won and played anybody anywhere? Let's go look at the bowl schedule. No, they would not. Cincinnati, the Peach Bowl, New Year's Day versus Georgia. San Jose State, the Arizona Bowl versus Ball State. Coastal Carolina, the Cure Bowl. That's not a bowl. That's a 2020 Spotify vibe. That's the Melancholia mix. What is this bowl season, Israel?
You know what? Of all the bowl seasons, bowl games in themselves seem to have lost interest over the years. This season, I'm confused as to why we're having so many games. Confused why we're putting, a bunch of student athletes in these situations with limited number of fans. For what you've got players that are opting out, and for the NFL, right? And what year would they have more reason to opt out than this year? To me, it's all. I'm going to watch that Coastal Carolina Liberty game, but overall, I'm just not impressed with the schedule. I don't think it should be played that many games.
Army at 9-2, it seems like they should be in a game. And I will say this for Cincinnati. I agree with Bill. Give it to the little guy once in a while. Put them in the Final Four. They're going to have a season like this once every 20 years. So for me, it's Cincinnati not getting in the Final Four, and it's Army not getting a bowl.
Plaschke?
You see all the teams opting out of bowl games just because the kids don't want to go there one day before the game. No celebration, no parties, no traditions. They play, they stay in the hotel, they go home. There shouldn't even be Izzy's right, there shouldn't even be a bowl season except for the Final Four. That should be it.
And Tim Callis got the horn.
Frank got it right. Army's 9-2, going nowhere. Mississippi State 3-7, playing in the Armed Forces Bowl. That makes a lot of sense.
That'll be the last word.
Geez.
Buy or sell on the other side.
Around the Horn is presented by Guinness. Game time is Guinness time. Please drink responsibly. Hart, welcome back to Around the Horn, brought to you by Chase. Coming to you from the Seaport District at Pier 17.
Drew Brees was 7 for 24 around the start of the fourth quarter, and you were questioning whether him playing was the right call. Fourth quarter fireworks made it a game, not enough to pull off the comeback, and the 1 seed now likely out of reach for New Orleans. For Kansas City, it's theirs for the taking, though they wait on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now we're hearing it's a high ankle sprain, even though that looked brutal. Another one-possession win, which is their 6th straight for Kansas City. You guys always talk about good losses. Did you feel that was the case for New Orleans, Bill? What was the takeaway from the game?
Yes, I think it was a good loss. They wanted to see how Drew Brees did. He didn't complete a pass in the second quarter, but then he threw 3 touchdown passes in the second half. He seemed to get better as the game went on and got used to the pocket, the rib protector. I think this is a good thing for Brees and the Saints moving forward.
Being that close to Kansas City for 60 minutes. Tim Callister, how about you?
I think it was a good win for the Chiefs. Even though going on the road isn't the same this year, it's still tough to go down there for Brees' first game back. And even the signing of Le'Veon Bell, which when they did it, it was like, okay, that's kind of extravagant. They don't need him. And now Edwards-Helaire gets hurt. And for a couple weeks at least, they do need Le'Veon Bell, and he looked good.
Israel?
I thought it was a good loss for the Saints there, not only with Drew Brees' performance, and he even said he probably forced it a couple times downfield, which is not what he normally does, and so he'll probably get back to form soon enough. But I just think in terms of the Chiefs, the Saints giving the Chiefs all that pressure, and Patrick Mahomes still finding a way to get out of it and make plays like he normally does. They're not running on every cylinder, but the fact that they can still pull out a win like this is impressive.
Frank Isola.
Hey, the Saints are gearing up for the playoffs. It was good to get Brees out there. Remember, he gave them a lead in the third quarter. Then he got them close with 2:06 to go. But here's the problem in the NFL. You need to stop the Chiefs just one time so they don't get a first down with 2:06 to go.
True.
Not happening. Mahomes is just too good right now.
But another one-possession game. I mean, Kansas City wins every game. Everybody thinks they're going to win every single game they play, but they're not winning it by an enormous margin. That Saints defense can go out and get you.
They're bored. They're bored, Tony. They're bored.
Are you bored right now, Plashke? Minus 10 points. Cardinals, Eagles, what a gas this was. Murray and Hurts exchanging haymakers and rainmakers and dire makers, germ makers, thon makers. For Arizona, more playoff security. For Philly, with the report this week that Wentz wants out if he's not the starter, what everyone saw, Doug Peterson, Jeffrey Lurie included. Today, Peterson named Hurts starter, quote, obviously, for the upcoming week. What do the Eagles do long-term here, quarterback-wise, TC?
Man, the battle of the Oklahoma transfer quarterbacks might have been the best game yesterday. And, it's easy to look at what's going on the field and say, stick with Hurts next year and get rid of Wentz. Then you look at Wentz's contract. There's no getting rid of Wentz. He's got to be there at least for a while, and you have to figure out, is there a way for him to be the backup? Does he deserve another chance? But right now, you just ride Hurts as long as you can.
Hurts wasn't great efficiency-wise with his arm, but it's almost like this skill set, you almost have to have it in the NFL these days. His ability to run the football. And that's been the biggest difference these first 2 weeks with him as a starter.
Was there an answer to the question, though? What are you doing long-term if you're Philadelphia, Israel, with Carson Wentz basically saying, I want to be the starter?
What are the chances that Carson Wentz ends up on another team? I give that a 57.4% chance because that is his league low completion percentage.
Ooh, wow. Fire take from Israel Gutierrez. Frank Isola, how about you?
Yeah, that contract is crazy. I felt good for Jalen Hurts. Here's my thing with Carson Wentz. To me, it was disappointing. When he got taken out of the lineup due to injury, they went on to win the Super Bowl. Now, here he is. He's out of the lineup, and he's complaining about wanting to be traded. Not a good look for him, or not be on the team anymore. Not good look.
Bill Plashke.
That's the whole thing, Frank. Because it's not a good look, you got to get rid of that look. He's not going to be a great backup. He's not going to be a great teammate, a great team player. You're going to have to get rid of Wentz. You got to keep Jalen Hurts. First 2 games, though, the first quarterback in NFL history to have at least 400 yards passing, 150 yards rushing in his first 2 games.
Is anyone willing to say they've seen the future for Philadelphia and maybe more? They saw Jalen Hurts go toe-to-toe with Kyler Murray, and it wasn't. No, Kalishaw, you're not buying Hurts. Israel, you're not buying Hurts right now.
Not there yet.
Not yet.
He looks far
What do
better
we
than I
wanna
would have thought he would, with no rookie seat. No.
Bill, Carson Wentz was 11-2 in his second.
Yeah, I believe that's been brought up. People have said he was an MVP candidate at one point. We'll move on. Buy or sell 3. I know you guys got jokes about the Falcons blowing a lead to Tom Brady, but let's talk about this spot, all right? It looks short. Gets moved by the official, and then it's up against the sticks. Is it there? I don't know if it's there. First down, game over. Legit or illegit, Israel?
No, I think that's completely illegitimate. It's terrible. We're talking about putting chips in the football, however. I don't know. Uber Eats is always getting my orders wrong because my PIN is somewhere else. I don't know if it's going to be that accurate if they put a PIN inside the football necessarily.
The inexact science of spotting the football. Can you imagine how many they got wrong in the 70s, 80s? Absolutely. Chip in the football. Get it
Bill
right.
Plashke?
It can't be that hard.
Why do we still use sticks? Why do we still have chains? Why do we still do these things? This should be automated completely. Yeah, the official just walked in there and moved the football. Syrup Kid just did it on his own unilaterally. It was crazy.
Go ahead, Tim. You can answer this, and I have a second question.
These guys want to put some good commercials out of business. We need chain gangs. We need those people to do their jobs. We need that's on the ref. That's not on the chain.
But what is that, honestly? Does that ref, that linesman or whoever is saying, I saw where his knee went down and it's actually over here? Because when you watch the video of him moving it after the fact, you're like, what is happening here? But when you watch the video of this show after the fact, Bill, Frank, I think you believe it was over from the start.
Why am I got to pay for the Rams?
Kalishaw, Gutierrez. Showdown next.
Yeah. Here we go.
Dangerous game, these Monday shows.
Around the Horn is presented by Guinness. Game time is Guinness time. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
What is now a recurring segment here on this show, the Derrick Henry Stiff Arm of the Week. Woo! Alex Myers eating it. Henry's got a stiff arm meter of his own. But here's some of the best of all time. I believe you see Vance McDonald here, Fred Jackson, Steve Smith, Marshawn Lynch had a great one in the Beast Mode run. Where does this one rank, Timmy?
This, I think, was Derrick Henry's best. Josh Norman may feel otherwise. I don't have any problem with this. Offensive players take a beating from defensive players. They occasionally get to get their hand out there and give them a little pop. No problem.
Okay.
I'd call it a Derrick Henry top 3, but no way. I feel bad for defensive players. They can't do anything, and yet they get to put offensive players get to put a hand right in their face and control them, and there's no penalty.
Wait, let me make sure I'm getting this
the other
right.
way around.
You think stiff arms should be illegal?
I think stiff arms to the face mask should be illegal, yeah.
I'm going to give you the Heisman right now. Showdown 2, the Giants fake field goal. Explain this one to me. All right? The holder throwing to a lineman who's triple covered. This reminds me of the Colts fake punt a few years ago. What is supposed to happen here, and how could this ever work, Israel?
Well, the thing about these trick plays or these fake punts is they have to be practiced to a T to get it right. Was this even practiced once, and what are you doing with that throw?
Coaches at all levels have been obsessed with becoming cool and coming up with these fakes. The Cowboys are 0 for 3 on fake punts this year. They're ridiculous. The Giants had a terrible one. People need to back
Israel,
off.
I don't agree with you. If they had practiced this play once, they would have realized this has no shot. We have a holder throwing to a lineman. Point game FaceTime, Tim Kalisha.
Oh, thank you, Tony. I just want to welcome Bill Plaschke to town in 10 days. I know he's covered a lot of Rose Bowls. I know he's got to be looking forward to covering one in Arlington, Texas. We are now the home of championships.
Yeah.
His Dodgers won the World Series here.
Yeah.
Now they're going to bring Alabama and Notre Dame here. A beautiful setting. I'd like to see the Tournament of Roses parade go right past Six Flags, up toward Randall. Should be a great event.
God, that's just blasphemous. That's just blasphemous, Kalisha.